Hello, TheSuffolkRam from Around Nerds. Welcome to my review of Doctor Who Series 10, Episode 8, The Lie of the Land. There may be some minor spoilers ahead, so if anything's spoiled, please turn off now. So, it's Lie of the Land takes place, a bit like all the episodes the last 4 weeks, 3-4 weeks have been. It's an episode that could be almost standalone, but it is sort of part of an overall story arc. It takes place directly after last week, where Bill, and this is spoilers for last week's episode if you haven't watched it, so warning, Bill basically invites the monks into, she basically offers Earth to the monks. And that's what this episode is called, The Aftermath. It's set 6 months later. Bill is sort of having to survive in this new world where the monks have propagated out their history of what they think is they've rewritten history surreptitiously amongst the human race. They believe that the monks are the background. They've done that, and she's had to survive in this new sort of police state, really. It is a police state. And the episode is basically obviously about how they go about getting out there, retrieving and escaping. I felt it was a bit of anticlimax, to be honest, the whole three things. Last week's episode was very tension-filled and really built up, and this one felt very much a case of the big sort of opening cliffhanger was let down very quickly with the Doctor and what he was doing. That resolved itself really quickly, and then the whole episode, in my opinion, would be better if it was built up to that and it's more about Bill's struggle and how she worked out how to save what was going on. But that was all very quickly, and then the actual ending of it, whilst interesting, felt a little bit pulled out the backside. It felt I found it very anticlimactic. It's definitely not as good as the previous episode, the previous 2 episodes. This really has been sort of a semi-3-parter in a weird way. So it was a bit of an anticlimax. I mean, it's got some interesting callbacks in it. It's got a few callbacks to Mad Electronics. It was nice early on. Bill's eventually friend, which plays into the overall plot. So it's got sort of typical hanging parts in it. What I did find interesting was I was completely bamboozled in a way. When it was revealed a few weeks ago that Missy was in the vault, I was convinced that Stephen Moffat was going to pull Stephen Moffat on us and Missy wouldn't be in the vault. And it turns out, spoiler, she is in the vault. So I was quite bamboozled by the whole thing. Really, that actually took me back. I was like, oh, I was wrong. Well done, Stephen Moffat. You've actually pulled double bluff on it. The episode itself, I thought, was interesting. It sort of dealt very much with sort of quite topical pins at the moment, the idea of fake news and rewriting history. And there was a couple of interesting jibes that the Doctor put in there about sort of fake news and that sort of thing. And it felt very in tune with what currently is going on over the pond, the other side of the world from the UK over here. It felt very much in tune with that. I won't say much more than that, but it felt very much like it was in that respect. So I have to say this episode was enjoyable. It didn't match the previous 2's build-up. The previous 2 have been really well built up, and this episode felt, not saying let down, it was still an enjoyable episode. I still thought it was quite good, but it wasn't anywhere near as good as what I was expecting. Also, it was very much an anti-climax of the whole thing. So, but overall, I have to say, it was enjoyable, but just not as good as what we've seen so far. And in fact, not as good as actually most of the season's been so far, but I think last week set a very high level and it was never going to quite achieve that. So on to the side characters in the episode. Pearl Mackie, well, she's not a side character, she's a companion, does a absolutely blinding performance as Bill. She really has a fantastic, absolutely excellent performance. I was very impressed with what she did and what she came out with. And she, very early on, she gives this very passionate speech, and it works brilliantly. It works really well. And I've really showed off her acting credentials, and I was very impressed. I mean, I said right at the very start of the season, I was not expecting a lot from her from the preview clips, but in actual fact, she excelled herself in this one. Matt Lewis is funny, is that he always lightens the mood and he does a very good job. It's his delivery as well, which is absolutely spot on perfect. He just knows to deliver the lines, and as Nadu, early on he has some really has some lines that just delivered just so perfectly. That made me laugh. And of course, I can't not mention, and this is in the trailer, so it's not, I consider, a secret. Missy is back, Michelle Gomez, and she steals pretty much every scene she's in. She's not in it for very long, but she steals every minute she's there. She absolutely steals the show and the shots, and it's so nice to see her again. And she's so funny. She's so just as a character. She also really, really enjoys playing that character. She's absolutely fantastic job. So really nice to see her back again. Capaldi once again does excellent early on. He really convinced me early on with his sort of what he thought was gonna, without spoiling it, his earlier situation. He really convinced me that he had, minor spoiler, turned. He really convinced me of that, and I was really quite impressed. So yeah, all the actors are on top form. We've actually got an absolute cracking cast this season from all of them, and really cracking, and I'm really enjoying them so far. Production wise, it's a very low again. Most of it's been very low in effects budget this episode. I have seen Moffat, I think in general, tends to hold back a little bit more on the effects than Russell T Dares would have done. He would have had like their base operations been in outer space, but Russell T Dares was always a bit OTT with that sort of thing. Moffat holds back a little bit. There isn't really a great deal of effects like we talk about. I mean, the overall production I thought was good. It's written by Toby Whithouse. Previously, I've got a list of what he's written. Previously, he wrote School Reunion, which is the episode where Sarah Jane returned. That was an excellent episode. We enjoyed that. Vampires of Venice, quite good. Not brilliant, but quite good. God Complex, absolutely loved that episode. Really loved that episode. That was set in a hotel, sort of 1980s hotel, with a creature that was sort of like making people believe. Awesome episode. Town Called Mercy, again, episode I really enjoyed. Really out of character of Doctor Who. It really did feel like a different. I was watching a different series. It really felt separated, but I liked that. It was nice to have a bit of a change of pace, so it worked really well. He also wrote last season's Under the Lake Before the Flood, which I thought were okay in hindsight. I think at the time I quite liked them, but I think in hindsight they're okay. They weren't the greatest episode, so he's been a little bit hit or miss. And this one, I have to say, is probably one of his misses, if I'm honest. It felt very convoluted ending, so I wasn't super impressed with it, to be honest. I liked the touches, the way they had to, as I said, mention them, make sort of a joke about fake news, which was a nice, interesting touch. I have to say, just sort of talking along it, am I the only person, this is not really related to production or episode, but am I the only person who thinks Bill looks really like her mother? And now, of course, I know she's meant to be her mother's daughter, but really like her mother. I would not be surprised if it turns out she is her mother. I'm throwing out that I don't normally do Rumour Mills, but somehow she's. Every time I see her photos, it's like you look just too like her, It's like you are the same person, but perhaps it's a double bluff. Perhaps I'm just. I've got my Stuart Moffat head on. I'm just looking for twists coming up, and I'm just sort of trying to work out what's going to be. And I tend to overthink things when Moffat's involved. So if it was Ross Studios, I wouldn't have thought that. But when Moffat's involved, I just think there's a twist coming up, and that's one as I saw jump. I think you look a lot like your mother, and I would not be surprised if she turns out to be her own mother. That's probably completely wrong. I'll find out in 4 episodes' time if I'm right or if I'm wrong. I'll find out. But yeah, it was. Well, I think overall, although it was a bit badly paced, I thought what writing there was quite good. The dialogue, I mean, particularly between Missy and the Doctor, worked really well. Particularly the way it bounced off all of them. Nadu's writing was excellent as normal. Very well put together. I thought the effects of the monk statues looked very, very fake. It looked like poor CGI. Their statue all over the place looked. I mean, the fact it's deliberate, but it just felt very out of place. Quite fake. So yeah, it was not great in that aspect, but overall I have to say quite a nicely produced episode. So that's it. So that's my review done so far. So final thoughts are, yes, I think the episode is not going to be the greatest season. It's not terrible. I mean, compared to season 7, which was season 8. Compared to season 8, it's excellent. But it's definitely probably one of the weaker episodes of the series, I think, so far. Definitely not quite. I think they were never going to be able to quite achieve the excellence they had already reached. I don't think they were ever going to be able to beat what they'd already done. But it's still, I think, a relatively good episode. But I would say, sort of, if I was going to give it a review, I'd say sort of middle of the road. Not terrible, not great, just sort of in the middle somewhere. But overall, quite unenjoyable episode. So next week we get to see the Ice Warriors again, facing off against the Victorian British Army. I'm not sure how it's going to work, but they'll find a way. So that'll be interesting to see. Ice Warriors aren't my favourite of monsters, but some of what I didn't like what they did on the submarine. I thought that was a little bit silly, the strange creature thing that pulled out the suit. But I'll put off that. We'll see what happens next time. So thank you very much for watching. I've been TheSuffolkRam. Hope you enjoyed. So if you have, please subscribe to the channel. We do reviews as well. Upcoming this week, we should also be happy. Me and my colleague, I don't know if you watched our previous video, me and a chap called Middlemeister, we did a sort of a discussion about the 4 episodes up to episode 4. We're going to be doing another one this week for the last 4 episodes as well. We're going to have a lot to discuss. Look for that sort of end of the week time. I hopefully have that on sort of Thursday, Friday. Hopefully Thursday. So look out for that. So thank you very much for watching. I've been TheSuffolkRam. Look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.